Hello and welcome! We're glad you joined us. I'm Georgia, lead technical trainer at Microsoft. In this session, we'll cover an introduction to Microsoft Priva and Microsoft Purview. We will explore these two powerful compliance solutions that help us protect our data, respect privacy, and manage risk in a constantly evolving digital landscape. As organizations handle more information across more systems, it becomes essential to understand how data is used, where it lives, and how to keep it safe. Priva helps us automate and simplify privacy tasks, such as identifying personal data, reducing data overexposure, and supporting regulatory requirements, while Purview gives us powerful tools for classifying, governing, and protecting and monitoring data across our entire environments. By the end of this video, you will understand why these technologies matter, how they support responsible data practices, and how they empower us to build a secure and compliant foundation for our organization. So let's get started with the session. We'll start with Microsoft Service Trust Portal privacy capabilities, then explore Microsoft Priva, and finally review Microsoft Purview and how they work together to support data security, compliance, and governance. So let's discuss Microsoft Service Trust Portal and its privacy capabilities. In this section, we'll set the foundation for understanding why compliance and privacy matter so much in today's organizations and how Microsoft helps address these challenges. You'll learn what the Service Trust Portal offers, explore Microsoft's core privacy principles, and get an introduction to Microsoft Priva. The Service Trust Portal is Microsoft's public site for sharing audit reports and compliance-related information for its cloud services. It brings together certifications, regulations, and standards, along with audit reports, white papers, and other assurance artifacts, so organizations can clearly understand how Microsoft protects data in the cloud. While the portal is publicly accessible, downloading certain detailed compliance materials requires signing in with a Microsoft Cloud account and accepting a non-disclosure agreement, ensuring sensitive information is shared responsibly. This makes the portal a trusted source for customers, partners, auditors, and regulators who need authoritative compliance evidence directly from Microsoft. In real-world scenarios, organizations use the Service Trust Portal to support audits, risk assessments, and regulatory reviews without having to chase documentation across multiple sources. The content is organized into clear categories, including certifications, standards, reports, white papers such as business continuity, disaster recovery, penetration testing, and privacy resources, as well as industry and regional materials for sectors like financial services, healthcare, media, and government. There's also a section tailored to your own organization, showing documents relevant to your specific tenant and subscriptions. The main benefit here is confidence and efficiency, and you have a single, reliable place to validate Microsoft's compliance posture and understand how controls are implemented. And most importantly, you can demonstrate this due diligence to stakeholders or auditors while saving time and reducing the compliance complexity. Let's review the Service Trust Portal together. In this demo, we'll see the features and content available from the Service Trust Portal. Let's navigate to servicetrust.microsoft.com, and if you have an account, it's best that you log into the portal. Here you'll find the majority of certifications, regulations, standards, white papers, and reports under the Service Trust Portal, and it's available to everyone to download. But if you have specific documents that you require that are specific to your organization and its subscriptions, then these documents will only be available to you after you log in. Let's review and notice the different categories of information available, starting with certifications, regulations, and standards. So if you wanted to know how Microsoft applies the ISO standards between its products and policies and procedures, here you can go through several assessment reports and certificates that demonstrate how Microsoft's compliant in these products like Azure, Dynamics, according to the ISO 22301 framework. And you can see all the reports and everything associated with ISO here. You can download these and check them at any time. So if, for example, you need to be compliant with a specific protocol, you need to prove that the services that you use are also compliant. And this is where you can download that proof, that reward, and embed this information in your company and your audit reports. The same is applicable to reports, white papers, and any artifact here. As you can see, for example, there's business continuity and disaster recovery. This is how the Microsoft Enterprise team oversees all business continuity management and resource recovery across the Microsoft services. If you notice, beyond downloading this, you can see when the file was last updated and how current everything is, all certifications, all reports. Last but not least, let's go back to the homepage of the Trust portal and scroll down a little bit here. Under Resources for your organization, you can see documents based on your own subscriptions and permissions that you have applied here. So, for example, as you can see, I have a lot of documents mostly based on Microsoft 365 reporting, some controls, and so on. And this is because the subscription and the organization, this is what applies to it. So this is what the Trust portal suggests is good for me to download. This was a quick demo on the features and content available from the Service Trust portal. After seeing the capabilities of the Service Trust portal, let's shift the focus from external proof or compliance to the principles that guide how Microsoft handles personal data every day. Here you can see Microsoft's privacy principles, which define the values and commitments behind how data is collected, protected, and used across Microsoft services. Microsoft's privacy principles explain what privacy means in practice and how it works for customers. Control means you stay in control of your data. You decide what's collected, how it's used, and you can access, change, or delete it at any time. For example, a user can review and delete their personal data associated with a Microsoft service through privacy settings instead of needing to contact support. Transparency ensures people understand what data is collected and can make clear choices about it. Microsoft clearly documents what customer data is processed, why it is processed, and under what contractual and legal terms. Security protects customer data using strong security measures, including encryption at rest and in transit. For example, data stored in Microsoft 365 is encrypted and protected using services such as the Azure Key Vault to secure encryption keys. Strong legal protections respect local privacy laws and defend customer data through contractual commitments and legal processes. For example, if a government requests customer data, Microsoft validates the request's legality and, when possible, redirects that request to the customer directly. No content-based targeting reassures customer that emails, chats, files are not used for advertising. While the benefits to this principle explains how data is collected and used to improve reliability, we can also troubleshoot issues and enhance the user experiences. Together, these principles support real-world cases like meeting regulatory requirements, building customers' trust, and enabling organizations to confidently use cloud services while knowing their data is treated with care and respect. In theory, all of these sound great, right? But what about in practice? When the time comes to implement them, Microsoft Priva is a solution designed to help organizations turn the privacy commitments into the everyday practice. Microsoft Priva helps organizations safeguard personal data and build a privacy-resilient workplace by giving visibility into where personal data lives and how it is used. It works by continuously identifying privacy risks across Microsoft 365 and beyond, then applying policies and automation to reduce those risks. Key capabilities include privacy risk management, which highlights issues like data overexposure, risky transfers, or storing data longer than necessary, and guides users through simple remediation steps such as tightening access or marking content for review. Subject right requests streamline how organizations receive, track, and fulfill personal data requests using automated workflows. Consent management provides a centralized way to capture, manage, and demonstrate the consumer consent across all data sources. Tracker scanning automatically identifies tracking technologies on websites to support ongoing privacy and regulatory compliance. Privacy assessments simplify understanding how personal data is used by automatically discovering and evaluating any data processing activities across your organization. Microsoft Priva is especially valuable for organizations that face growing privacy regulations and increasing customer expectations around data protection. Use cases can include, for example, helping employees follow good data handling practices, efficiently responding to subject right requests like access or deletion requests, managing the consumer consent across digital properties, and scanning websites for tracking technologies that could impact compliance. So instead of relying on manual processes and disconnected tools, organizations get a centralized automated approach to privacy that reduces risk, streamlines the compliance efforts, and builds trust with the customers and the regulators, while allowing our teams to stay productive. But before we secure data, we need to know what and where they are. In this section, we'll focus on Microsoft Purview. We will review how Microsoft Purview helps organizations discover sensitive information, how to classify it correctly, and how to protect it throughout its life cycle. We will focus on 3 core areas: information protection, data loss prevention, and insider risk management, and explain how they help reduce accidental data exposure, how to prevent inappropriate sharing, and minimize internal risks. The goal is to show how organizations can secure their data wherever they live, while still enabling people to collaborate and work productively. Microsoft Purview Information Protection focuses on data classification, which means recognizing what kind of data you have and why it matters. It starts with sensitive information types, which are pattern-based identifiers, such as credit card numbers or passport IDs, and extends to exact data match classifiers that compare content against known values from a secure data source. For more complex scenarios, trainable classifiers use machine learning to recognize content like contracts or invoices based on meaning rather than patterns, with options for ready-to-use pre-trained models or custom classifiers tailored to an organization's unique data. These tools help organizations accurately classify information wherever it lives, from email to documents, so these protections can be applied consistently. Once data is classified, Microsoft Purview provides clear visibility into how that information is used. Content Explorer gives administrators a snapshot of where sensitive or labeled data exists across Exchange, SharePoint, and OneDrive, with tightly controlled access, because it can reveal file contents. The Activity Explorer complements this by showing what users are doing with sensitive data over time, such as labeling changes, sharing, or copying files, making it easier to spot risky behavior or validate that controls are working as intended. These insights help organizations meet compliance requirements, reduce the risk of data exposure, and make informed decisions about improving policies, all while enabling users to keep working productively with the right safeguards in place. But how can we turn insights into protection? With sensitivity labels. Sensitivity labels let us clearly classify and protect emails, documents, without disrupting how people work. Labels are customizable, stored in clear text, and persistent, which means they travel with the content wherever it goes. A label can encrypt content, add visual markings like headers, footers, or watermarks, or simply classify information without applying protection. Labels can also be applied automatically based on sensitive information types, or recommended to users at the right moment, thus helping organizations protect data consistently while reducing the reliance on manual decisions. Sensitivity labels become powerful when they're combined with label policies, which controls who sees which labels and how they are used. Through label policies, administrators can publish labels to specific users or groups. Then it can apply default labels to new content. They can require justification when labels are changed, Or they can actually enforce mandatory labeling before content can be saved or sent. Labels can also extend protection to containers like SharePoint sites and Microsoft 365 groups, and even integrate with third-party apps through the Microsoft Information Protection SDK. The result is a flexible protection model that balances strong security with productivity and helping organizations meet compliance requirements. It can also help us prevent accidental data exposure, and it gives users clear guidance on how to handle sensitive information. So let's see an example. We have a finance team that automatically labels emails and documents containing budget forecasts as confidential finance, applying encryption and a visible watermark. The label policy ensures only the finance group members can access or edit the content, and it blocks any external sharing. It can also require justification if a user attempts to downgrade the label, protecting the sensitive financial data without disrupting the daily collaboration. Let's review Microsoft Purview sensitivity labels together. In this demo, we'll go through sensitivity labels in Microsoft Purview. This is the main page of Microsoft Purview under purview.microsoft.com, and I've already logged in with my account. Let's review a little bit of the home page. In the home page, you can see what's going on, an overview and insights based on your account and subscriptions, your compliance posture, your status, your recommendations, and more specific solutions, and everything that we're going to go through today. Let's review a bit on the solutions by clicking the solutions. You can see all the solutions available, and you can go through the list. You can also have a shortcut to related portals like Defender, Entra, the Service Trust portal, Microsoft Fabric, and Priva. Let's go up and let's open the information protection. This is where you handle your sensitivity labels. In the overview, you will see a little bit of setup, tasks, things, and recommendations that you need to do along with reporting. To see and edit sensitivity labels, click on Sensitivity Labels on the left. Here are our labels, the default ones that were created in this subscription. And by clicking, you can edit a label, or you can simply just see the options. Let's try to edit one. What we need to set up, of course, is the name, the priority, the description for the users, and the most important thing is the scope for this label, whether it's for files, emails, meetings, and so on. Then you can choose the protection settings of the items you've selected, if you want to control access based on this label, or it's just a generic label. Do you want to apply content marking? And last but not least, who is auto-labeled by using this, and which group this applies to. After you have completed all this information, you can finish and review your settings and save the label. I'm not going to save the one, so I'm going to leave this here. It can take a little bit of while after you've created the label for it to show up and be effective. But let's go to a Word document and see how we're going to apply those sensitivity labels you have or you created directly into that document. So here in the tab, I've loaded an empty document on Word Online, but it's the same as if you're working in the desktop application. Next to the title, whether that's on the left or on the middle of the screen, you'll find this icon. If it's on your desktop app, it probably reads the whole label, and you can see the name of the label. So this is marked in a specific color that you have assigned to the label as well. In Microsoft Online, it's a little bit shorter due to the space and very, very small, but still there. By clicking on that icon, you can assign the labels that it's already assigned to, review, and change it. So for example, if I want to make it personal or confidential or public, this is where I would change it. This is how. So let's say we want to change it. When you click it, you have to provide justification, like, why are you changing this? Does it no longer apply? Or is it incorrect? Or any other explanation. And that's it. If you followed all the rules, you've changed the sensitivity label. And you can do similarly to emails and everywhere else sensitivity labels apply to. And they're being tracked by Microsoft Purview. This was a quick demo of the capabilities of sensitivity labels in Microsoft Purview. Sensitivity labels classify and protect information at the content level. Now we need to make sure that sensitive data is not shared in the wrong way. This is where data loss prevention, or DLP, comes into play in Microsoft Purview. DLP helps organizations identify and protect sensitive information wherever it's created, stored, or shared, including Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams chat and channels, endpoints like Windows and macOS devices, cloud apps, on-premises repositories, or even Power BI. DLP policies look for sensitive information types and then take action in real time, such as showing a policy tip, blocking sharing with or without an override, or preventing sensitive content from appearing in a Teams message. It helps users pause and make better decisions while still allowing work to continue securely. DLP works by combining clear conditions with protective actions that match the organization's risk tolerance. Administrators can use built-in templates for common scenarios like financial health or privacy, or they can create their own policies tailored to their business needs. Endpoint DLP extends protection to actions like copying files to USB drives, printing documents, or even uploading data to unapproved apps, giving visibility into data in use, not just data at rest. The Activity Explorer then provides insight in what users are doing with sensitive information over time, helping organizations validate controls and improve policies. Imagine an employee that tries to send a Microsoft Teams message that includes a customer's social security number. A Microsoft Purview DLP policy detects the sensitive information type, blocks the message from being sent, and displays a policy tip explaining why the action is restricted. The user can either remove the sensitive data or provide a business justification if overrides are allowed, helping the organization prevent accidental data leaks while educating users in real time. After learning how data loss prevention helps stop sensitive information from leaving the organization, let's turn our attention inward to risks that come from within. Microsoft Purview Insider Risk Management helps organizations identify, investigate, and address internal risks, such as data leaks, intellectual property theft, fraud, insider trading, and regulatory violations. It is designed to detect both intentional and unintentional risky behavior by employees, giving organizations a structured way to reduce harm before it escalates. Common use cases include preventing confidential data leaks, protecting intellectual property, and identifying policy violations that could lead to compliance issues or even financial loss. For example, a security team can use Microsoft Purview Insider Risk Management to detect unusual data download and sharing activity by an employee leaving the company. Alerts are generated, triaged, and then escalated into a case, so reviewers can investigate and take appropriate action to reduce the risk of data exfiltration. Insider risk management works through a clear workflow that balances automation with human review. You can create policies that define which risk indicators to monitor. Alerts are automatically generated when risky activity is detected. Reviewers triage alerts that need attention, and cases are opened for deepened investigation when it's required. Reviewers can then take action to resolve the case, often working across compliance, HR, legal, and security teams. So this brings us a coordinated and transparent approach to managing insider risk. On top of this, we have supported integration with Microsoft Security Copilot, which can summarize alerts and help reviewers understand what happened faster. So in this way, we can reduce internal threats while maintaining trust and productivity. But the data security landscape changes rapidly. How can we become proactive in how we can identify new risks? With adaptive protection in Microsoft Purview, you don't need to. Adaptive protection uses machine learning to assess insider risk signals and automatically apply the right level of protection based on user risk. Instead of one-size-fits-all controls, protection adapts as risk changes. When a user is flagged as elevated, moderate, or minor risk, Microsoft Purview can automatically adjust controls from data loss prevention, data lifecycle management, and conditional access to reduce the exposure while still allowing work to continue. So what this means is you can block risky actions like sharing sensitive data or accessing certain apps only where the risk justifies it. High-risk users might see stricter DLP rules or blocked access, while low-risk users continue with minimal disruption. This context-aware approach helps prevent data leaks and insider incidents without slowing everyone down. So we end up with smarter security, faster mitigation, and reduced admin efforts because protections are applied automatically and adjusted as behavior improves or risk decreases. After exploring how Microsoft Purview helps secure data, let's discuss data compliance and how organizations can meet legal and regulatory requirements with confidence. In this section, we will explore 4 key capabilities: Audit and eDiscovery, Compliance Manager, Communication Compliance, and Records Management in Microsoft Purview. We will focus on how they help investigate activities, respond to legal requests, track compliance progress, and monitor communication risks. The goal is to show how these tools work together to give organizations visibility, control, and confidence when managing compliance obligations across Microsoft 365. Microsoft Purview Audit helps organizations respond to security incidents, internal investigations, and compliance obligations by recording thousands of users and admin activities across Microsoft 365 services in a unified audit log. These audit records capture actions such as file access, sharing configuration changes, and administrative operations, giving security, IT, legal, and compliance teams a reliable source of evidence where questions arise. Audit data can be searched through the Purview portal, accessed by command line or API, and exported for further analysis, making it a practical foundation for investigations and regulatory reviews. Now, Microsoft Purview offers 2 audit options to match different organizational needs. Audit Standard is enabled by default for eligible subscriptions and provides searchable audit records retained for 90 days, supporting your everyday forensic and compliance investigations. Audit Premium builds on this by offering longer retention, customized retention policies, and intelligence insights, along with higher bandwidth access to audit logs through APIs. Audit also plays an important role in Microsoft Security Copilot, where Microsoft Security Copilot actions and responses are logged through Purview to maintain accountability and transparency. Altogether, these capabilities help us understand what happened, when it happened, and who was involved, reducing investigation time and strengthening our compliance posture. Overall, we can build confidence in how activity is monitored and governed. Microsoft Purview eDiscovery focuses on identifying and delivering electronic information that can be used as evidence in legal cases or even internal investigations. It provides a structured way to create and manage cases, search across Microsoft 365 workloads like Exchange, Teams, OneDrive, SharePoint, Microsoft 365 Groups, and Viva Engage, and take action on the content you find. Trigger events can automatically start a new case, helping organizations respond quickly and consistently when an issue arises. eDiscovery works through a clear end-to-end workflow that makes complex investigations easier to manage. Teams can search and refine the results, place holds to preserve content, and create review sets when data is securely copied for analysis. From review sets, reviewers can run analytics, tag items, and export that relevant information for legal teams or regulators. We get significant benefits, as we can save time, reduce risk, and essentially maintain defensible processes, especially when responding to legal requests or investigations. For example, imagine a legal investigator creates an eDiscovery case to investigate a potential policy violation involving confidential information shared in Microsoft Teams and Exchange Online. So the search terms used that we search for are employee name, project code name, and keywords like confidential and pricing. As far as content location searched, we can put Exchange Online mailboxes, Microsoft Teams chats, and SharePoint Online sites. The action taken? The search results can be exported. A review search is created, and relevant messages and files are tagged for legal review and potential escalation, like to be put on hold if needed. With Microsoft Security Copilot integration in the embedded experience, users can also summarize review sets and translate natural language questions into search queries, making eDiscovery more approachable even for non-legal specialists. And if you're asking, how can I measure compliance through all these processes? You can do it using the Microsoft Purview Compliance Manager. The Compliance Manager helps us understand and manage compliance by translating complex regulation standards into clear, actionable steps. It provides pre-built assessments aligned to common regional and industry regulations, along with workflow tools to assign and track risk assessments. We can see the compliance score that reflects progress across controls, showing where they are strong and where improvement is needed, and this helps teams prioritize their efforts confidently. The Compliance Manager works by organizing compliance work around key elements: controls, assessments, regulations, and improvement actions. Controls define requirements by Microsoft Managed, Customer Managed, or Shared, while assessments group controls by regulation or standard like ISO. Improvement actions provide step-by-step guidance, documentation, tracking, and even scoring, so we know exactly what to do next. For example, a compliance administrator can use Microsoft Purview Compliance Manager to assess ISO 27001 readiness. In the Compliance Manager dashboard, they open a pre-built ISO 27001 assessment. They review the map controls, and they track the improvement actions such as enable audit logging and configure sensitivity labels. The admin assigns these actions to ID owners, uploads evidence, which is policies, screenshots, directly in the improvement actions pane, and monitors progress through the compliance score to demonstrate audit readiness. Compliance is indicated by the compliance score. It's a simple way to see how well we are doing, right? How well an organization is meeting its compliance obligations, let's say. The compliance score represents progress in completing recommended improvement actions across regulations and standards. It combines actions that Microsoft manages with actions the organization is responsible for, giving a shared responsibility view of compliance. Each action contributes points based on its impact and type, helping us clearly see what has been completed and what still needs attention. The compliance score is especially useful for prioritization and decision-making. Actions are categorized as mandatory or discretionary and further classified as preventative, detective, or corrective, making it easier to focus on work that reduces risk the most. For example, mandatory preventative actions typically carry higher point values because they have the greatest impact on improving the compliance score. We can use the compliance score to track this readiness for audits, reports, provide status to leadership, and guide compliance roadmaps. Compliance applies to communications too. Microsoft Purview Communication Compliance is designed to detect, capture, and act on inappropriate or risky messages before they turn into serious incidents. It scans messages across Microsoft and supported third-party platforms for things like offensive language, harassment, unauthorized sharing of confidential information, or potential regulatory violations. You can configure policies based on corporate rules, risk management needs, or regulatory requirements, so the system knows what to look for and when to flag a message for review. This makes communication compliance especially useful in industries where strict oversight in a single message is crucial, because it can create legal or reputational risk. Once an issue is detected, communication compliance follows a clear and practical workflow. Administrators configure policies, reviewers investigate flagged messages, and teams remediate issues by resolving alerts, escalating cases, or making false positives. Continuous monitoring helps identify trends, improve policies, and guide employee training over time. Integration with Microsoft Security Copilot adds value by summarizing these messages and providing context, so reviewers can make faster and more consistent decisions. And while some data are critical and always needed, others do not be saved beyond the sender point. Data lifecycle management in Microsoft Purview helps us control information from creation to deletion, so data is available when needed and removed when it's no longer required. This is done using what we call retention labels and retention policies. Retention labels work at the individual item level, such as an email or a document, and only one label can be applied at a time. These labels travel with the content, even if it moves locations. It can be applied automatically, based on conditions, and support disposition review, so content can be checked before deletion. This approach is useful for records, contracts, or sensitive documents that must follow strict retention rules. Retention policies work differently and apply at a broader level, such as an entire mailbox, an entire site, multiple users. A single policy can cover multiple locations and items, inherit these retention settings from their container, which makes it easier to manage large volumes of content consistently. We can use these tools to meet regulatory requirements, and then we can reduce lists during litigation and avoid storing data longer than necessary. This gives us simpler compliance management and confidence that any information is retained or deleted according to policy, all while users continue to work normally across Microsoft 365. Imagine, for example, the HR department applies a retention label to employee contracts in SharePoint to retain these documents for 7 years and then delete. This label travels with the files if they're moved, it supports disposition review before deletion, and it ensures that the records remain available for eDiscovery during the retention period. Our retention policy is also applied at the mailbox level, so HR emails inherit the same retention rules automatically, and this gives us less manual effort and better risk management. And when content must be preserved as is, we could use records management in Microsoft Purview, which helps organizations meet legal and regulatory obligations by controlling how critical content is to be handled. When content, such as emails or documents, is labeled as a record using retention labels, specific restrictions automatically apply. Users may no longer be able to edit or delete the content. Key activities are logged, and proof of disposition is retained where the retention period ends. This ensures important business and regulatory records remain trustworthy, traceable, and defensible over time. Records management is especially valuable for industries with strict compliance requirements, such as finance, healthcare, and government. Microsoft Purview supports both standard records and regulatory records, with regulatory records applying even stronger protections. Once the content is marked as a regulatory record, the label cannot be removed and retention periods cannot be shortened, even by administrators, making it suitable for highly regulated scenarios. Some common use cases that would use this case would be preserving contracts, financial statements, legal correspondence, or policy documents. And this is where we get the most benefits. We can demonstrate compliance, we can prevent any accidental deletion or modification of the content, and we have clear evidence that records were managed correctly throughout their whole life cycle. So let's see a quick demo of eDiscovery together. In this demo, we'll go through the steps required to get started with eDiscovery. I've just logged into my account in Purview using the purview.microsoft.com portal, and we can get started. To access eDiscovery, you go through the solutions here on the left and you click eDiscovery. Now you can create a new case. To create a new case, you have to build specific queries, for example, set of words or conditions. Let's see what's needed. So I'm going to open an existing case, but this menu is no different than when you're first creating. The only difference is you need to put a name and description. But other than that, in the Query tab, you can edit your sources and conditions at any time. So let's go with the data sources. This is where do you want this to search? As you move through the page, you can add tenant resources, as I have for all people in groups. You can add tenant-wide resources or specific resources. Here, you can create your conditions using the condition builder. Building a query, you can use the visual condition, and it starts like this. You start with keywords. I've used my name, so it's going to search my name everywhere, in files and in users around the organization. You can put more than one keywords. You can also add more than one conditions. And it's not only about keywords, but it could be date, title, participants in a meeting, and more. And you can see all the options here. Now that we have where to search and the query, we can run this. If we've never run this before, we need to run it to load the statistics tab. So let's see the statistics from the previous run that I had here. First of all, you get a summary. The total matches on the locations we specified. And as soon as this has run, you can actually go ahead and export this information. You can add it to a review set, or you could create a hold. If you want to create a hold, essentially, you create a new hold policy. So a search policy searches and discovers the term around your tenants, your data, your mailboxes, and the hold policy holds everything around the data where it's found. So let's go back to the query and see how to create a hold. Of course, you need to provide a name and the keywords and the condition for the hold policy as well. But if you create it from here, it's going to take the same data sources, the same keywords, and any configurations. But if you want to modify them a bit, you can. And then you apply the hold. So any actions you take in a hold policy are included. And you can try to turn off the policy or delete the hold policy if you want. You can access your search policies here and your hold policies here and your exports here. This was a quick demo of how to get started with eDiscovery by setting up your first search and hold policies. As we move from managing data, records, and retention, let's discuss how we can use data governance in Microsoft Purview to understand, organize, and manage data at scale. In this section, we will cover why data governance matters, focusing on the benefits of governing data across the organization and the key capabilities of the Microsoft Purview data catalog. The goal here is to understand how good governance helps us easily discover data, understand what it means, access it safely, and use it responsibly, while the data owners and leaders have consistent quality and insight across the entire data estate. Microsoft Purview Data Governance focuses on helping people trust and use data with confidence. For data consumers, governance improves data discovery, so users can quickly find the right datasets, enable secure access so data is shared safely, and provide better data understanding through clear context and descriptions. For leaders and executives, governance supports data value creation by maximizing the business value, while reducing any operational risk, and promotes data estate standardization by applying consistent controls across the organization. These benefits help us turn growing volumes of data into a reliable asset rather than a risk. Data governance works in practice by defining key roles and core concepts. Data owners and stewards play a central role by curating data, managing classification and access, and ensuring high-quality standards, while stewards focus on data quality, discovery, glossary consistency, and lineage. A central data office sets governance policies, oversees compliance, and monitors the overall data health. This approach is based on federated governance, which balances centralized standards with shared ownership across the business. Concepts like data access, data curation, data discovery, data health, and data understanding ensure that data is easy to find, safe to use, well-maintained, and clearly described. Together, these roles and principles help organizations govern data responsibly while still enabling innovation and, of course, everyday business use. And finally, the Microsoft Purview Data Catalog is the place where governance comes to life. The data catalog is designed to help organizations organize, of course, but also understand the data, so it can be used confidently to drive actual business value. It groups data using familiar business domains like sales or finance and bundles related assets into data products, making it easier for users to see the full picture instead of isolated datasets. By connecting data to business contexts such as glossary terms, critical data elements, and objectives and key results, the catalog helps users understand what the data means, why it matters, and how it should be used. This makes data discovery faster and reduces confusion for analysts, business users, and decision makers across the organization. The data catalog also supports strong governance without slowing innovation. It enables self-service data access by defining clear access policies so users can request and receive the right data while still respecting security and compliance requirements. Features like search and browse make it easy to explore available data, while health management and data quality capabilities help owners and stewards monitor governance progress and improve data reliability over time. Let's see these in practice. For example, a data consumer in the finance team used Microsoft Purview Data Catalog to find a trusted revenue forecast data product. The data owner has grouped related datasets under the finance governance domain. They have added glossary terms and they have marked key fields as critical data elements. Using search and browse, the user discovers the data product, reviews its business description and quality indicators, and requests access through self-service data access policies. This enables faster and secure use of governed data aligned to the business objectives. Let's wrap this up. Microsoft Compliance Solutions work as a connected set of tools to help organizations manage trust, risk, and responsibility across the data estate. In this section, we have explored the Service Trust Portal and Microsoft Priva for transparency and privacy. We discussed Microsoft Purview data security solutions to protect sensitive information, data compliance solutions to meet legal and regulatory obligations, and data governance solutions to organize and unlock business value. The key takeaway is that these capabilities work together to help organizations protect data, stay compliant, and confidently use their information to drive outcomes, all within a unified Microsoft approach. This concludes our session. There are many ways to continue your learning journey. Keep the momentum going by exploring the rest of the videos in this course, or discovering your next favorite topic on Microsoft Learn at aka.ms/learn. Thank you for watching, and remember, security starts with you.